talk will be of a slightly different nature. All of you have heard about the pioneering contributions made by Professor Dhawan, both to IISc and to ISRO. I would mainly touch upon some of the reminiscences I have about my association with Professor Dhawan for more than 4 decades, right as a student, then up to my retirement from the National Aerospace Laboratories. So first of all, let me thank the Indian Academy of Sciences, Professor Bharata Majumdar and Professor Narasimha for having given me this opportunity to say a few words on this occasion. My association with Professor Dhawan extends for more than 4 decades. First as an ME student in aeronautical engineering at Indian Institute of Science. Then perhaps as his last PhD student in IISc when he had already taken over as the director of Institute of Science. Then as an engineer in Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, ISRO, which I joined in 1970, and he joined ISRO as chairman in 1972. Then I was associated with him as a member of the NAL Research Council for a period of about 8 years. Then I was a beneficiary of his advice and goodwill when I was at Aeronautical Development Agency working on LCA project and when I was at Director NAL. I joined for ME course after finishing my BE in engineering from the Visvesvaraya College at Bangalore. I joined the Aeronautical Engineering Department in 1961. Professor Dhawan was already the chairman at the age of 41. And my seniors talked about him with undisguised awe and admiration. He was young, dashing, exuberant, inspiring. He was considered an expert in experimental fluid mechanics, had done excellent work at Caltech, as others have already mentioned, on the direct measurement of skin friction and on shockwave boundary interaction. And he was known to be very, very friendly with students. So everybody admired him and everybody was happy with him. As a teacher, to our batch, he taught basic aerodynamics and wind tunnel testing. As Professor Narasimha has already mentioned, he was an excellent teacher and his emphasis was on physical aspects. He was very cheerful and friendly with students. Some of the technical material he prepared, the tables he prepared, the diagrams he prepared and distributed to the class are still a treasure. At the end of each semester, there used to be an oral exam in each subject, and we were all waiting to see Professor Dhawan in that oral examination committee because he used to ask simple, penetrating questions. He made us think on the spot and was very, very encouraging, even if he gave some wrong results, wrong answers. We all enjoyed his presence around us in the department, maybe in his chambers, as Professor Narasimha said, climbing up and down the steps in the department, or in the workshop, or in the corridors, etc. Then after finishing my ME in 1963, we all had a dilemma, what to do next. There was only HAL as the industry. Some people wanted to go to the industry. There was NAL as a research lab. Some people preferred that. Some people wanted to go abroad. A few of us wanted to stay back and do our PhD in the Institute of Science itself. So with some trepidation, I walked into Professor Dhawan's office. He was already the director, with a request to take me as his PhD student. He thought for a moment and said yes. I suspect that his ready answer was not to be totally lost, because he did not want to be totally lost in the administrative and management duties of the director. He wanted to keep in touch with research and wanted to keep in touch with youngsters. He gave me the topic of three-dimensional turbulent boundary layers because of its practical relevance to aircraft, to swept wings, to blended configurations, to gas turbines, etc. And he said your work is supposed to be mainly experimental. You have to build your own instrumentation, which was the tradition in the department at that time. And we had a facility there which he had built, a 2-foot by 2-foot boundary layer wind tunnel, which had already produced excellent research of Professor Narasimha and others. And I was supposed to work there and get my PhD. This is a schematic diagram of three-dimensional boundary layers. What exactly is involved here? In addition to the velocity component parallel to the free stream, there is a velocity component perpendicular to the free stream in a three-dimensional boundary layer. You need to understand how these boundary layer profiles really behave. And the important thing was the skin friction now is no longer a scalar. It is a vector having a streamwise component and a crosswise component. So the problem here is to measure the skin friction, direction, and magnitude, and to measure the velocity profiles in a three-dimensional boundary layer field. So the first thing I did was to ask Professor Dhawan's help in building the instrumentation. He had already done excellent work, as I said earlier, on direct measurement of skin friction. So we thought, why can't we try it for the 3D flows also? But quickly we found that the pressure gradient also causes a force which makes the skin friction measurement inaccurate. So we settled for indirect measurement. That is what is called the Preston tube technique or a Stanton tube technique. That is a pitot tube touching the wall and measuring the velocity, and from that, through a calibration procedure, obtaining the skin friction. Because we had to get both the direction as well as the magnitude of skin friction, we used twin chamfered Preston and Stanton tubes. So by nulling it, you get the direction of the skin friction, and by calibrating the reading of any one tube in a rectangular channel, you get the magnitude of skin friction. Similar probe were used to measure the boundary layer velocity vector as you traverse from the free stream to the wall. And the interesting thing here was Professor Dhawan used to walk with me to the workshop to get these things built. And it was a pleasure to see him giving precise instructions to the mechanic. We had some excellent mechanics in the aero engineering department who could build almost anything that the students wanted. And it was a pleasure to see him asking them to produce accurate instrumentation for the students' experiments. Slowly, Professor Dhawan got busier, and as many others have said, that he was doing so much in the Institute of Science. So it was difficult to find much time with him. But whenever I could meet him, I always came back with renewed vigor and energy. He often used to walk into the lab unexpectedly, full of ideas, but I had to be careful to sift those ideas as the months were rolling by. So towards the end, I got to be mostly on my own, but it was a nice feeling of independence as well as support because whenever I required help, he was always available. I wrote a paper and submitted to AIAA journal that was written rather clumsily, but he patiently brought it to a good shape and refused to name his name Addy. One of the things that I remember during my PhD days was the moral support that he gave me when my father was seriously ill with liver cancer. He sent one of the professors of the institute, Professor Sirsi, to my house to talk to us about chemotherapy. At that time, it was rather new. We could not afford it. We could not take him to the place where chemotherapy was available. So he passed away, and he sent a small note when my father passed away in his typical Taiwanese style. After the Institute of Science, my another long association was with him was in ISRO. When I joined Vikram Sarabhai Space Center in 1970, Professor Dhawan himself joined as chairman ISRO in 1972 after the untimely demise of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Of course, he had discussed with the government. He wanted ISRO headquarters in Bangalore, and he wanted to continue as director of the Institute of Science also, which was agreed because the government, I learned, was very keen to have him leading the Department of Space. And he created a Space Commission structure, and the Department of Space was under PM such that he could get full support for all the activities. And one of the very important things, in my view, he did was to bring in Dr. Brahm Prakash, as a noted metallurgist, as the director of VSSC. I think he was very well respected, and he was instrumental in pushing the SLV3 project. I would like to make some important observations while I was at space, how it affected younger people like us, junior level and mid-level scientists, the way that Professor Dhawan was interacting with Dr. Kalam and how he was conducting reviews, etc. The first thing he did was restructuring the SLV3 program. Till then, in my view, it was run in a rather fragmented fashion. Each stage had its own chief, its own director, but he brought a good system where created a project office, a core project team, and gave complete autonomy to Dr. Kalam. And he brought in Dr. Kalam, even though he was not highly educationally qualified, because he was a hands-on, hard-working engineer. He maintained very close association with the project throughout. These are some of the pictures where Dr. Dhawan and Dr. Kalam have been interacting. There, Kalam is giving a presentation on the project. Professor Dhawan is taking notes along with Dr. Brahm Prakash. The figure below shows their very close, affectionate relationship. And he always projected Kalam as the man behind SLV3 project, whether it was Prime Minister or somebody else visiting the Department of Space. One of the very important traditions he set up was to establish a review system in ISRO, a peer review system. Each important aspect of technology, each important project milestone had to be reviewed by a peer group. I heard some of my colleagues say how is this review going to be helpful? The people who come, the professors from the Institute of Science, etc., they do not have an idea of what we really are doing, how intricate this problem is. But the very task of preparing a structured presentation and presenting it with good documentation helped these doubting Thomases themselves in preparing a good technical document. As far as SLV3 was concerned, it was a continuous 2 to 3 day review. It was open to all engineers of Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. Anybody could stand up, ask a question, or make an observation. I think this narrowed down the distance between the topmost management and working level scientists. I think this is now a cherished culture of ISRO, and many other organizations also have picked it up, but I think it is most notable in ISRO, and many of the projects have succeeded because of this review culture. Sometimes Professor Dhawan wanted to get into details of certain scientific and technical aspects also, in addition to the project reviews. One such was the 60 trajectory optimization of a launch vehicle once it is launched. Three scientists were from 3 different groups were working on the same problem. And one late evening after dinner in VSSC, he sat through the reviews and listened to all these presentations, but finally left the decision to Dr. Kalam to decide which one to use. Learning from failures was another great aspect. We had one failure of stage 1 nozzle during the first static test. As per standard practice, then there was a review by chairman. Then he set up a detailed review committee chaired by Professor Narasimha, with me as the convener. The problem was complex, but we deliberated in a few sessions. And finally, I think I was asked to sort of see how the existing test data, which we had gathered earlier, could be used to design a new nozzle. And I did that in terms of 2 simple heat transfer parameters, bio number and Fourier number. We correlated the data within plus minus 15%. I will not go into the details of this. It was fascinating for us to see how Professor Dhawan got involved in all aspects of the SLV3 projects. This is his visit to the launch center, and along with Dr. Brahm Prakash, Dr. Kalam, and Dr. Srinivasan, he is inspecting everything. And Dr. Kalam has mentioned this several times. First launch was a failure. Professor Dhawan took full responsibility for that, and he prompted the team to work hard and succeed in the next launch. And after 1 year, the next launch was a success. This was a great lesson for all of us younger people. Another thing that he inculcated was the leadership transition. Just after SLV3's successful launch, Dr. Kalam was moved to another group, technical group, and 3 younger people were put in charge of SLV continuation, ASLV, and PSLV projects. This has helped ISRO such transition that there has been never a leadership crisis in ISRO. Another area in which I was closely involved with him was freezing the PSLV configuration. There were 2 candidates there. There was a lot of discussions. Finally, we selected this configuration, a 125-ton solid booster and with 6 strap-ons. And another thing that we learned was, if you do not have a technology, a sort of leapfrog, this is a liquid propulsion engine. Our team worked, the ISRO team worked with Ariane team, with the SNECMA team and Viking, Then he came back and built a similar engine. This is a lesson which many other high technology programs in the country can learn. Out of routine challenges, sometimes he used to say something rather unusual asked us to tackle. One such was the Skylab Space Station re-entry in July 79 to predict the date and time and location of impact. There were many unknowns there, but we did what best we could and reasonably predicted that it was in the Indian Ocean region, which turned out to be broadly correct. Professor Dhawan wanted to know how we understood the complex re-entry dynamics. It also took keen interest in our scientific tasks. One of the things that I remember is we built a blowdown hypersonic wind tunnel for which we made a special sanction of 2 lakhs in addition to whatever we had already spent, with a condition that the first blowdown should be made within 1 year, and we achieved it, and he brought the review team to the lab to look at the facility. Then the next stage of interaction is with the NAL Research Council, where after his retirement from ISRO, and the mandate he gave was NAL should initiate a major thrust in civil aviation for establishing a vibrant civil aviation industry in the country. Thus were born the Hansa and the SARAS project under Professor Narasimha, the then director of NAL. I was involved in pushing these 2 projects, the certification of 2-seater Hansa, all-composite Hansa. Then the lesson that we had learned from Professor Dhawan in ISRO, we practiced it in NAL, that involving both public and private sector and many other laboratories and small-scale industries and doing many things in ISRO. We used to visit NAL and spend some time to learn what is really happening and interacting with the scientists. And the rollout of this aircraft took place in February 2003, because the flight took place in 2004. They were not alive at that time. So, a token of gratitude, we named the aircraft as XSD, SD standing for Professor Satish Dhawan. Then, as a token of gratitude to Mrs. Nalaji Dhawan, Dr. Mashelkar, then director of CSIR, are presenting a model. This is the first SARAS flight in 29th May 2004. So the seeds sown by him and nurtured with love, both Hansa and SARAS reached a certain stage with his blessings. In conclusion, Professor Dhawan's contribution manifold to Indian higher education and to Indian aerospace. Many have already talked about it. He was an excellent teacher, inspiring guide, and great leader. Experimental fluid mechanics, he laid the foundation, transformed the character of both IISc and ISRO, which he led with the distinction for fairly long periods. Most important, Dhawan the person, charming, humane, meticulous, and very friendly with everyone around him. So we remember him with gratitude, affection, and respect.